One afternoon, Lizzy sat in her small office in the old shop, looking through her diary. She smiled as she flipped through pages filled with her goals she once thought were impossible. So many had come true. Suddenly, her phone rang. It was a number she didn't know. "Hello," she said. "Good afternoon. Am I speaking with Mrs. 𝐿𝐿𝐫𝐿𝐫𝐿? Yes, this is Lizzy. This is 𝐶𝐭 from Bold Africa magazine. We've been following your story and your fashion brand. We would love to feature you in our next edition. Can we schedule an interview?" Lizzy blinked in shock. Yes. Yes, of course. After the call, she leaned back in her chair and smiled. She remembered when she couldn't even afford fabric. Now, a top magazine wanted to feature her. Later that evening, Desmond picked her up from the academy and took her out for dinner. As they sat at a quiet restaurant with soft music playing, Lizzy told him about the call. Desmond raised his glass. "To Lizzy, my wife, my queen, and soon, the face of Bold Africa." They clinked glasses and laughed. A few days later, the magazine crew arrived at the academy. They took pictures of Lizzy working with her students, sewing on her machine, and standing proudly in front of her building. The article that came out was titled, "The Tailor Who Stitched Her Way to Glory." People across the country read it and were inspired. Lizzy started receiving messages from women saying, "You gave me hope. Because of your story, I started my own business. Thank you for showing us that it's possible." One message stood out. It came from a young girl named Blessing in Jos. "Auntie Lizzy, I grew up without a mother. My father is a tailor, and I've always wanted to learn. But he says it's not for girls. After reading your story, I'm going to follow my dream. Thank you for being my hero." Lizzy wiped her eyes as she read it. She never imagined her life would touch others this way. Desmond walked in and saw her with the phone. "What's wrong?" he asked, sitting beside her. "Nothing," she said, smiling through tears. "These are happy tears. Someone called me a hero." He pulled her close. "That's because you are one." Life was sweet for Lizzy. Her marriage was peaceful, her business was growing, and her name was now recognized across Nigeria. But sometimes, even in a season of joy, old memories find a way to return. It was a rainy Tuesday morning. Lizzy had just finished supervising a new set of fashion trainees at the academy when Emmy rushed into her office, wet from the rain and breathing fast. "Lizzy," she shouted, dropping her umbrella by the door. "You won't believe who I just saw." Lizzy looked up, surprised. "Who?" "Steve," Emmy said. "Again. And not just that, he came with someone. A woman and a small child." Lizzy's heart skipped a beat, but she quickly composed herself. "Okay," she said calmly. "And why is that news?" Emmy sat down, shaking her head. "Because the woman is pregnant." And they were both outside the church, begging for food. Lizzy looked out the window at the gray sky. Steve had once walked like a king, full of pride. Now he was begging. "I feel nothing," she said softly. "You shouldn't," Emmy replied. "But something tells me he might try to come back." Later that day, Lizzy stopped by a pharmacy to pick up some items. As she walked out of the shop, she nearly bumped into someone. "Sorry," she began, then stopped. It was Steve. He looked up slowly, his eyes wide with surprise. "Lizzy." For a second, they both stood still in the rain. He looked different. Very thin. His clothes were too big for him, and his eyes were sunken. Behind him stood a tired-looking woman with a swollen belly and a little girl of about 5 years, barefoot and holding a soaked bread roll. Lizzy looked at them, then looked back at Steve. "You again?" I didn't know you'd be here," he stammered. "And what do you want?" she asked. He shook his head. "Nothing. I'm not here to beg. I just wanted to say thank you. And sorry, again." Lizzy's eyes narrowed. "For the record, I've moved on. I'm married. I'm happy. Please don't try to disturb my peace." The pregnant woman stepped forward. "Good afternoon, Ma," she said softly. "We are sorry. My husband has told me everything. I didn't know who you were until today." Lizzy raised her brow. Husband. So Steve had married her. The woman continued, "I know I'm not the reason for what happened between you two. But I'm begging, if there's any little help, for the sake of our children." Lizzy paused. She had promised herself she would never let pity control her again. But she also knew what it felt like to have nothing. She reached into her bag and brought out 10,000 Nigerian nairas. She handed it to the woman. "This is for the child," she said, her voice firm. "Not for you, Steve." Steve nodded slowly. "Thank you." "Don't thank me," Lizzy replied. "Just make sure you don't destroy this woman's life too." Then she walked away without looking back. That night, 𝐬𝐮𝐻𝐫𝐞 noticed she was quiet at dinner. "Did something happen?" he asked gently. "I saw Steve," she said. 𝐬𝐮𝐻𝐫𝐞 didn't react immediately. He took a deep breath and reached for her hand. "Are you okay?" Lizzy nodded. "Yes. I thought seeing him again would make me angry. But it didn't. I actually felt sorry for him." "You're a good person, Lizzy," 𝐬𝐮𝐻𝐫𝐞 said. "Even after all the pain, your heart is still soft." She smiled. "I just hope I'm not too soft." "No," 𝐬𝐮𝐻𝐫𝐞 said. "You're strong. Strong enough to forgive, and wise enough to walk away." The next day at the academy, Lizzy gathered her staff and students for an announcement. "We are launching a new scholarship program," she said. "For young girls who can't afford tailoring school. We will train 10 girls every year, for free." The hall erupted in cheers. "This is my way of giving back," she continued. "Because I know what it feels like to start with nothing." Later, as she sat alone in her office, a student knocked gently on the door. "Auntie Lizzy," the girl said shyly. "Can I talk to you?" "Of course, come in." The girl walked in and sat down nervously. "I just wanted to say thank you," she said. "You don't know me well, but I used to sell groundnuts on the street. Someone told me about your free training. You changed my life." Lizzy smiled warmly. "What's your name?" "Zinni," the girl replied. "I want to be just like you." "No," Lizzy said, laughing softly. "Be better than me." As the girl left, Lizzy looked at the framed photo on her desk, her and 𝐬𝐻𝐫𝐞 at their wedding, smiling under the sun. She had lost much. But she had gained more. The months rolled by quickly, and Lizzy's Touch Fashion Academy became a household name. The new building was almost ready, and Lizzy and 𝐬𝐻𝐫𝐞 began preparing for the grand opening. Invitations were printed. Newspapers and blogs started talking about the tailoring queen of ABA. But just when everything seemed perfect, a storm came. It was a Friday morning. Lizzy was reviewing fabric samples in her office when Emmy ran in, panic written all over her face. "Lizzy," she shouted. "The land behind your new building, there's a land dispute." Lizzy's eyes widened. "What? What do you mean?" "There's a man claiming it belongs to his late brother. He came with papers and even a lawyer. People are gathering already." Lizzy stood up at once, her heart racing. "But we bought that land legally. We have the documents." "I know," Emmy said, "but the man says the seller wasn't the real owner." Within the hour, Lizzy and 𝐬𝐻𝐫𝐞 were at the site. The crowd had gathered. A man in a brown shirt was shouting loudly, pointing at the land. "This place belongs to my brother's children. You people built here illegally." Lizzy stepped forward. "Sir, we bought this land from Mr. Obina. We paid in full, and we have the documents to prove it." The man turned sharply. "Obina? That man is a fraud. He sold land he didn't own." 𝐬𝐻𝐫𝐞 stepped in. "Sir, if there's a problem, we'll settle it in court. Please, don't cause confusion here." The man spat on the ground and left, but not without a warning. "Prepare yourselves. I'm taking this case to court." That night, Lizzy couldn't sleep. She lay in bed beside Desmond, staring at the ceiling. "What if we lose the land?" she whispered. "We've already built so much." Desmond held her hand. "We'll fight. We did everything right. We have the documents. Let's trust the law." Lizzy nodded slowly, but her heart was heavy. The next few weeks were full of meetings, visits to lawyers, and sleepless nights. The court case was filed, and the judge ordered both parties to bring their documents. The man also brought witnesses who claimed the land belonged to someone else. But Lizzy's lawyer was smart. He gathered all the evidence, receipts, agreements, video recordings of the seller, and even witnesses who saw the transaction. During the court hearing, Lizzy stood quietly as her lawyer presented everything. The judge looked at the documents carefully. Then he turned to the man. "Your claim is weak. The land was sold in good faith, and the transaction was documented legally. This court sees no reason to cancel the ownership." The gavel hit the table. Case dismissed. Lizzy's knees almost gave way from relief. Desmond hugged her tightly. "We won, baby." Tears rolled down her cheeks. "Thank you, God." When they returned to the academy, Amy had already gathered the staff and students. Once they saw Lizzy and Desmond enter, Amy shouted, "Our queen has returned victorious." Everyone clapped and cheered. Lizzy stepped forward and raised her hand. "This is not just a victory for me. It's a victory for everyone who believes in hard work, honesty, and never giving up." The grand opening was moved to the following Saturday. And what a day it was. Colorful tents, food vendors, live music, the whole community came out to celebrate the opening of the new Lizzy's Touch Fashion Academy headquarters. TV stations came. Reporters asked her questions. Local government officials sent representatives. Lizzy wore a beautiful red gown made with her own hands. She stood on the stage beside Desmond and gave a short speech. "When I started this journey, all I had was a sewing machine and a dream. Today, I see how far hard work, faith, and support can take a person." She looked at her students in the crowd. "This building is not just for me. It's for every girl who was told she couldn't do it. You can. And you will." Tears rolled down the cheeks of many, including Amy, who was trying not to cry again. That evening, as the event ended and the guests left, Lizzy and Desmond sat quietly on the academy steps, watching the sunset. "Can you believe this is our life now?" she asked. "I can," he replied. "Because you never gave up." Lizzy smiled. "Thank you for standing beside me. For fighting with me." Desmond looked into her eyes. "It's easy to stand beside a woman like you." As the last bit of sunlight faded, Lizzy leaned on Desmond's shoulder. They had survived betrayal, heartbreak, fear, and even legal battles. But they had come out stronger. Together. Weeks passed after the grand opening of Lizzy's Touch Fashion Academy headquarters. The air in the academy was full of hope and laughter. More young girls came to register, and parents from nearby towns brought their daughters to learn from Madam Lizzy. Desmond had resumed his usual business trips, handling 𝐬𝐿 contracts and expanding their joint fashion line. Even Amy, who once said she'd never sit in an office, now had a desk and answered phone calls like a real manager. But something was changing in Lizzy, and she didn't know what it was. One morning, she sat in her office feeling tired. Her head was spinning, and the smell of the pepper soup her assistant brought made her rush to the bathroom to throw up. Amy followed her, holding a handkerchief. "You don't look well. Are you sick?" Lizzy washed her face and stood by the sink, breathing heavily. "I don't know. I've been feeling strange. Always tired, and I keep throwing up." Amy's eyes grew wide. "Wait, have you missed your period?" Lizzy froze. Amy screamed, "Oh! You're pregnant." Lizzy blinked. "I don't know. I haven't even checked." "Let's go and check now." Amy shouted, pulling her along. They went to a nearby clinic, and after a quick test, the nurse smiled and said, "Congratulations, Ma, you are 6 weeks pregnant." Lizzy sat there, stunned. I'm going to be a mother. Amy clapped her hands and started dancing right there in the clinic. Ewo. Madam Lizzy the mama. That evening, Lizzy waited at home for Desmond to return from a short business trip to Umuahia. She made his favorite meal, vegetable soup with pounded yam, and set the table neatly. But her heart was beating fast. She didn't know how he would react. When he walked through the door, tired but smiling, Lizzy ran to hug him. Welcome, my love. Something smells nice, he said, dropping his bag. Sit, eat first. I need to tell you something after. As they ate, Desmond talked about his trip, but he kept looking at Lizzy with curiosity. You're acting different, he said. What's going on? She smiled and placed her hand on his. Desmond. I went to the clinic today. He sat up quickly. Are you okay? I'm fine, she said. But I'm not alone anymore. His eyes searched hers for a moment. You're pregnant? He asked quietly. She nodded. Desmond dropped his spoon, stood up, and pulled her into his arms. He didn't say a word at first, he just held her tight. Then, with his voice shaking, he whispered, Thank you. Thank you for giving me this gift. Tears rolled down Lizzy's cheeks. She didn't expect that much emotion. Are you happy? Happy, he laughed. This is the best day of my life. That night, they lay in bed talking like children. What do you think it is? Lizzy asked. A boy or a girl? Desmond rubbed her stomach gently. Maybe twins. Huh. God forbid, Lizzy laughed. One at a time, please. He chuckled. Boy or girl, it doesn't matter. As long as it's healthy and has your heart. The next morning, Lizzy went to the academy and called for a short staff meeting. I have news, she said, placing her hand gently on her belly. We're expecting a baby. The room erupted in cheers. The students clapped, and the staff shouted with joy. Amy danced again, shouting, I told you. I told you. After the announcement, everyone got back to work, but there was an extra joy in the air. Lizzy went to her office and found a small note on her desk. It was from one of her young students. Dear Auntie Lizzy, you are like a mother to all of us. Now you will be a real mother. We are so happy for you. Love, Ifunanya. Lizzy pressed the note to her heart and whispered, Thank you, God. As the weeks went by, the pregnancy changed her routine. She slowed down a little, resting more, eating better, and attending antenatal classes with Desmond. She even started sewing little baby clothes in her spare time. One day, as she sat in her sewing room stitching a tiny blue shirt, Desmond walked in and stood quietly, watching her. What? She asked, smiling. I just can't believe this is my life, he said. You? The baby. The love. It feels like a dream. She got up and hugged him. It's not a dream. It's our reality. Then he knelt and kissed her growing belly. Hello in there. Your daddy loves you. Lizzy laughed and wiped her eyes. This child is already lucky. No, Desmond said. We are the lucky ones. As Lizzy's belly grew, so did her happiness. Desmond took care of her like a delicate flower. He never let her carry heavy things, always made sure she ate on time, and would even rub her feet every evening while they talked about baby names. They laughed often. Sometimes about random things, like how the baby kicked whenever she ate okra soup, or how Desmond had already bought a small football jersey and said, this one must play for Super Eagles. But even in seasons of joy, life still has a way of testing people. It was a peaceful Sunday afternoon. Lizzy was sitting in the backyard of their home, enjoying fresh air and peeling garden eggs. Desmond was in the sitting room watching football. Suddenly, her phone rang. The number was unknown. Hello, she answered. The voice on the other end was weak and shaky. Lizzy, it's me. Steve. Her fingers froze. What do you want? She said sharply. I'm at the general hospital, he replied. I'm very sick. The doctor said it's kidney failure. Lizzy was quiet. I know I shouldn't call you, he continued. But I had no one else. Please. Just come. She ended the call without another word. She sat for a long time, her eyes fixed on the garden egg in her hand. Later that evening, she told Desmond what had happened. He looked at her carefully and said, "Do you want to go?" "I don't know," she whispered. "He hurt me. But I don't hate him." Desmond nodded. "If you want me to go with you, I will."
Hope you enjoyed the tale. If so, please like the video, share, comment, and don't forget to subscribe. Also turn on your notification to get more enchanted tales like this one. Goodbye.